Hey crafty fam and DIY brides, my name is Alex Vanover and welcome back to my craft room. If you are new here for the first time, then welcome. I am so glad that you're here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use heat transfer vinyl to make your very own custom handkerchiefs, which is the perfect gift for all the people who are special to you on your wedding day. So let's jump into it. So before we get into this tutorial, I want to show you guys a quick hack for helping Cricut Design Space. So my Cricut Design Space has given me nothing but problems today, and I want to show you guys something that you can try to see if that helps. So if you're having problems with Cricut Design Space, go to the three little lines in the upper left-hand corner of your canvas, and then go down to your settings. And then scroll all the way down to the bottom, and in Canvas style, go from new to classic. And then it's going to look like the older version of Cricut Design Space, but chances are, if you're having the newer Design Space, then the older version will work a little bit better. Okay, so let's dive into this tutorial. So I'm going to show you a couple ideas for some different things that you can actually put on your handkerchiefs, because I know that sometimes for making these, one of the barriers is I don't really know what to say. So a lot of these can be converted to either parent. These are just some of the examples that I used in my wedding. One of the really sweet ones I always see for dads is, Dad, of all the walks we've taken together, or we've taken, this one is my favorite, love, bride. Another one that I used for my mother-in-law when I got married was, Mom, for drying my tears as you've always dried mine. And then of course I said, love, Andrew. And probably my favorite saying out of all of them is this one: today a groom, tomorrow a husband, always your son, love, the groom. Now you can also convert this to the wife version, which is what we're going to do in this tutorial. So I'm going to get rid of all of these other blocks of text. I just wanted to show you these in case you needed some ideas. All right, and actually before we get into the saying, I'm going to show you guys how to set up your handkerchief so that you know that you can size everything correctly and it's going to look really, really good when you cut it out. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the Shapes panel and insert a square, and then you're going to make that square the same size as your handkerchief. So for me, that's going to be 16 inches by 16 inches. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that this is a little bit easier to see. Move our little saying there out of the way. And Design Space is going to continue to be a little bit of a booger. There we go. All right. So we will change that square to white. And then my particular handkerchief has a little bit of a design on it. It's got some stripes around the outside. So I'm actually going to insert a second shape, which is a square, and I'm going to make it 10 3/4 inches wide. And that's just so I know what my handkerchief looks like, and then I don't end up doing or putting any HTV over top of those stripes because I want to leave them intact. So this second square is optional, and that's only if you have the same design of handkerchief as I do. So I'm going to make this a really light gray so that we can see on it. And then I'm going to click and drag a box around both of these squares, and under Align, I'm going to go to Center. And that's going to keep everything, of course, in the center for me. And then I'm going to group it. Now, a lot of handkerchiefs that I've seen actually do the text down here in the corner. So to make that a little bit easier, I'm going to keep this selected, and I'm going to go up to the rotate function and rotate it 45 degrees so that we can kind of see this little corner here. And now we'll zoom back in a little bit. So this is where we're going to do all of our text. So now let's start inserting our text, and I will show you guys the best way that I have found to do it. So I'm going to type mine in line by line. That way I can arrange all the lines evenly to make sure that everything looks good. So now we can start formatting some of our text. Next, let's talk fonts, because I know that that is always tricky, especially in situations like this. You want to make sure that the font is readable, but you also want to make sure that it looks nice, right? Because this is a gift for most likely your parents or your in-laws, and so you want it to look really pretty. So I experimented with a lot of different script fonts, and the one that I found that I liked the best was Faithfully Script. So I'll link that for you guys in the description. It is definitely one that I've had for a while, but I do use it pretty frequently because it's still really easy to read, but it also looks really nice. So I'm going to change each line to that Faithfully font, and then we'll go ahead and format them next. Okay, and so whenever you're formatting script font, I always recommend, whoops, those almost went in the wrong order, huh? This needs to go up there. There we go. All right, so the first thing that I always recommend that you do is take this sizing and size it really, really big so that you can see everything you need to see. That way, if any of the connectors look kind of funky when you put them together, you'll be able to see that. But I always go up to letter spacing and change it to 0 first. Now you're still gonna have to manually move the letters somewhat, but at least with this, you'll be able to do a little bit less moving because everything is as close together as you can get it. So we'll go ahead and do this. Now keep in mind that after you ungroup it, it goes from being a text image to just like a regular image. So you can't format it as a font anymore, if that makes any sense. So make sure that you change your letter spacing and everything before you ungroup. Otherwise, you're gonna have to treat these as individual images. All right, so once you have your letter spacing adjusted down to 0, next it's time to ungroup your letters and move them so that they are perfectly connected. And that's why this is much easier when your text is a lot larger, just so that you can see any flaws or anything like that. And we'll select everything and scoot it all over. And then we'll just scoot everything over toward this B. All right, and it looks like Bride's a little bit higher than the rest of the text, so I'll bring it down just a hair, and that looks pretty good to me. So I am gonna weld this, but I'm only gonna weld it word by word in case I need to do any letter spacing or adjusting in the future, because remember, once you weld, you cannot necessarily unweld. So you wanna weld your script font so that it cuts all as one continuous piece, but if I were to weld this entire line, I would not be able to make any adjustments later. So I'm just going to weld the individual words so that I can make other adjustments if needed. So weld that. And then we'll select all of it together. Well, and of course, sometimes the selection boxes get a little bit confused. So we'll use the layers panel here on the right. So I'll select the layer, hold down Shift, and then click each of the layers that I want to select. And then we'll click Attach because you can always unattach later. So next we'll move on to the next line. If you have any problems with the letters filling in after you weld, all you need to do is undo it immediately and space the letters out a little bit further. All it means is that one of your little tails has just gone too far into the letter, and Design Space doesn't like that, so it does tend to fill those letters in. You just want to fix that as soon as you see it, since you can't unweld after you take so many steps or after you save it. So we'll select everything, and then it keeps selecting this handkerchief as well. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and unclick this group, so that way it's just selecting the letters, and then I'll select weld. All right, so once everything is all welded and attached properly, next we're going to start formatting it on the handkerchief. And I recommend starting with the line that is going to go closest to the corner, and then we're going to build up this way. So again, the reason I am working with the middle of my handkerchief is because of the specifically designed handkerchief that I have. But if you just have a plain handkerchief, I would start down in the very corner. So first I'm going to go ahead and resize my text so that it's just inside that little box. You want to try not to make it super tiny, so if you have to go up a little bit, sometimes it is worth it. That might be a little bit big. Let's try this. So once we have that first line in there, then you want to go up and copy the height, because that's going to guarantee that your text looks to be about the same size. So then we're going to get the next line and we're going to paste the height in there and see how much room that leaves us. Whoops. Oh my gosh, of course. Oh my goodness. All right, let's find the always your daughter line right here. Okay. So once you have that selected, you know, we are going to go a little bit bigger. And the reason that this is a little bit tricky is because the Love Alex line down here doesn't have any descenders, which means any of the loops that go below the line. So that's why this text looks so small. So I'm going to resize it a little bit just to make sure it looks like it matches. And then we'll use this line height on the rest of the lines. All right, that looks pretty good to me. So now it's 1.423 inches high. Then we'll try the next line. We'll resize that height here. And we can always go back and center it. So don't worry about everything looking super perfect right away. We're just getting the format the way that we want it. Now I am probably gonna squash this in just a little bit, because if we don't, we're gonna be going kind of into the middle of the handkerchief, and I don't necessarily want that. So we're gonna space it kind of like this. I think that looks pretty even. So what we'll do is we'll be selecting line by line, and then we're gonna use the alignment tool to center everything. So I'm gonna hold down the shift key as I click each line, and then go over to the align tool and click center horizontally. And there we go. We can bump it over a little bit, but this is really just a guide anyway. So once you get everything the way that you want it, next you want to go over to the right-hand panel with everything still selected and click attach. Okay, now we can get rid of a lot of other stuff in this project. The next thing you definitely want to do is save your project, just in case you have to go back and make any changes or make another one. I'll delete this other text box. And then I'm going to click this grouped section of squares, and I'm going to click the eyeball here to hide it. And then I'm going to save it one more time. And this will get us ready to only cut out this small area in Cricut Design Space. So next we're going to go to the Make It section. And we're going to click Mirror, of course, because this is going to be cut out of HTV. So then we're going to click Continue. And once our machine connects, I'm going to be using StarCraft SoftFlex HTV. That is definitely what I would recommend for this project if you have some or if you want to get some, because it's super thin and it's matte, so it's not going to look real shiny in comparison to the handkerchief. Then once your machine connects, you can choose the everyday iron-on cut setting if you're using something like StarCraft SoftFlex or Caesar EasyWeed. If you're using a different kind of HTV, make sure you use whatever cut setting is recommended for that HTV. So let's hop over to my machine. I'll show you how I cut this out, and then we'll get this project done. Next step is to just cut away the part that your Cricut has just cut for you and weed your design. So I'm going to be using my pin pen weeding tool that I got from 143 Vinyl. So I will link both these and the tweezers down in the description below in case you have not seen these before. And I also have my handy dandy weeding berry. If you guys have seen my videos before, you know that I love this little guy to collect all of my little scraps so they don't get all over the place and stick to everything. So definitely check out these weeding tools if you're not using them already. One of the the reasons why I love using StarCraft SoftFlex is because of how easily it weeds. I was able to rip off all of those pieces and kind of get rid of a lot at once without worrying the other little pieces were gonna come up while I was ripping off the back. So I just love how tightly held to the carrier sheet SoftFlex HTV is, and if you guys have not tried it, you totally need to. Plus, this matte finish is gonna make this look a lot higher quality. It's gonna look a lot closer to being embroidered without it actually being embroidered. All right, and then once everything is all weeded, you want to flip it over and make sure that you got all the little pieces out that need to be removed. And next it's time to apply the HTV to your handkerchief. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring my handkerchief over and flatten it out. And I'm going to use my Easy Press to get rid of a lot of the wrinkles. So I'm going to apply the HTV down in this corner. So I'm just going to make sure that a lot of the major wrinkles are gone. Then once my handkerchief is fairly flat, next I'm gonna put down my Cricut Easy Press mat. If you guys do not have an Easy Press mat, I highly recommend grabbing one if you're an Easy Press user, because it really helps with the raising the surface of the garment up a little bit higher than the seams in case you're having any problems. So I use it every single time that I use my Easy Press, no matter what. So I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna use my Easy Press one more time to get a few more wrinkles out, and then we're gonna apply this HTV. All right. So next I'm gonna flip over my HTV with the carrier side down, and I'm gonna start by lining up my text down here in this corner. So as I was telling you guys before, when I designed in Cricut Design Space, I told you that it had these funky stripes going down it, and so I was trying not to press anything on those stripes. So I'm just gonna line up this line and this line inside the stripes, just like I designed in Cricut Design Space. Now my text ended up being fairly large. You can definitely make yours smaller. You can also bring your lines together a little bit more if you prefer that style. I just wanted to make sure mine was nice and readable for you guys. And then this is not necessarily required, but I also like to add a Teflon sheet over top of my HTV. I just like the way that it protects the surface of my Easy Press from getting any HTV on it, and it helps with even heat distribution. So this is just a single sheet of Teflon that I'll put over top all my HTV. And now we'll go ahead and apply this StarCraft SoftFlex. The thing that I really like about StarCraft SoftFlex is it applies at a little bit of a lower temperature, the 285 degrees, and you can apply it for between 10 and 15 seconds. So it's nice and low and just really, really easy to work with. So we will peel back this carrier sheet. And that SoftFlex HTV stuck like a dream. I just love the way the matte finish looks on this handkerchief. I think this is going to be such a sweet keepsake for many, many years for your parents to come. I also love the way that this matte finish makes it look just like it's embroidered without actually embroidering it. If you make anything using my tutorials, whether it's a custom handkerchief or anything else, and you decide to share it out on Instagram, I would love for you to use the hashtag DIYAlex so that I can see what you're making and learning about. And if you've made it this far in the video, then I would love to connect with you on social media. So please check me out at DIYAlexVanover on pretty much all major social platforms. I'll also put direct links down in the description below so that it's super easy to get connected. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more just like it, then be sure to subscribe to the DIY Alex YouTube channel and be sure to ring the bell so that you get notified every single time that I put out a new video every single week. But don't wait for next week's video. Be sure to check out this one next. Or if you want to make your DIY dreams come true, be sure to check out this video. I know that you're going to love it.